Hello again from a beautiful day. Yes, it has been raining here in Antalya city, Turkey, for a few days. But it is still a beautiful day for me, as I'm not worshipping to sun god. And I think any of you are not worshipping only to sun god, right? I think you don't have a god called sun. Your God should be much bigger or more beautiful. Yes, sun is beautiful, yes, but it is only a part of the God, I believe, and the rain or clouds are also one of the parts of this God, or we can say one of the elements of this God, Allah. So I'm starting my speech by wishing you beautiful days in any conditions you are now. Today, I want to speak about some from archaeology, which is one of the best fields I'm interested in. It is, I think, firstly, because of the geography I'm living in. Turkey and also Antalya city is full of archaeological sites. And this made me wonder about ancient people and history. I had many questions in my mind on ancient people, their lifestyles, and their beliefs. And I also had many unsolved questions on prophets. And thanks to Allah, my God, archaeology solved them and still keeps solving these questions that many fields have not been able to give any satisfying or any convincing answers. So before any fields of science, I firstly and mostly would love to thank to archaeology and whoever works on or deals with archaeology. Let's start and keep talking with the most convincing archaeological sites that will help us to understand who we were, how we developed in mind, and so how we developed in faith. The first site is from Şanlıurfa city in Turkey, known as Göbeklitepe, meaning belly mound or belly hill, as this site was discovered on a hill. Seems like a very huge belly, a very big belly. Yes, there in Göbeklitepe, we see many temples built in the same shapes. 2 central T-shaped stones and 12 other T-shaped stones surrounding these taller central stones. Yes, one of these temples must be the first temple, and the others must have been built by future generations. So, who built this first 14 T-shaped stone temple? Of course, it was Prophet Adam, the first human who was different from his around in terms of morals, mind, and faith. You might ask me how I can be so sure. So let me keep telling you about another archaeological site dating back to 1000 years before Göbeklitepe. Yes, it is said that Gobeklitepe is nearly 12,000 years old. And this site, called Boncuklutepe, meaning be the hill, is around 13,000 years old. Because, as far as I learned from the news on Boncuklutepe, they call here as Boncuklutepe because as far as I learned from the news on Boncuklutepe, many beads were discovered from the land. So I guess they decided to call this site as Boncuklu. Boncuklu means beady. It is situated in another city called Mardin city. This is again in southeastern Turkey, only around 200 kilometers away from Gobeklitepe. So I strongly guess that the first prophet was living somewhere like Boncuklutepe and moved from here to somewhere far away from his homeland to start a new life and to start the history of first human beings that would be reproduced by himself. So I think that Prophet Adam was living in Boncuklutepe or somewhere similar like Boncuklutepe, somewhere which had same traditions in Boncuklutepe, and then moved to Şanlıurfa city Gobeklitepe and started a new life there. A human being life there. When we compare these both archaeological sites, I mean Gobeklitepe and Boncuklutepe, at first they have different shape of temples and they had some different traditions, and these traditions or beliefs made me be very sure of where Prophet Adam moved and built his first temple or his temple. In Boncuklutepe, we can see temples having less number of stones, like only 2 stones. These places were not being only used as temples. People were living here, cooking here, praying here in the same place, and also they were working here. I mean, they were using these temples also as their offices, and they were even burying their dead people underground of these temples. You know, or you must know, all these traditions are wrong in a true belief. We cannot cook, sleep. We cannot do our works. We cannot sing songs. We cannot dance. We cannot bury dead bodies. We cannot use the central part of a temple as a toilet. So, the central part or the true temple should be apart from somewhere we cook, somewhere we live, we sleep, we eliminate. I mean we pee or we poop, because temple is somewhere special, and in order to pay our respect to the God we believe, we need to prove our sincerity by showing our respect in any way. So we cannot use a temple for everything. It should only be used for praying, for concentrating on Allah. Yes, we can pray everywhere. We can ask help from Allah in everywhere. But temples are the places that take believers together and encourage others or other people to understand the importance of one God, Allah. So while Prophet Adam was living with his before human around among these traditions, he must have understood the importance of one God and the importance of sincerity. So he must have said that this cannot be a true belief and this cannot be a true temple. So he must have started getting revelations and new knowledge from Allah in return of his true faith. Then he gets orders from his one God and decides to move somewhere with the wife he chose in order to keep his faith and also in order to start the history of first humans. And the somewhere must be Gobeklitepe. Because here we can see justice. We can see stones built for each members of the family. So we start seeing the first parliament that consists of 14 family members. And also we see that people of Adam were not living, sleeping, or working in these temples. They were living somewhere else, maybe in caves or in primitive houses that might have been destroyed in time, so we cannot see any of them now. They were also working somewhere. I mean, they were hunter-gatherers, so they knew the difference between where to live, sleep, work, and where to pray or talk on policy. But even Prophet Adam didn't know the importance of one God well, and he used his temple both as a worshipping place and a parliament. But today, we are what? But today, we are not talking on policies in temples. We have parliaments, right? You know, we have parliaments in every country. Or we are talking on issues in somewhere else. And also one of the other legs of Prophet Adam was the way he used for explanation of the shape of Allah. He used tall stones and said that God is biggest than any of us and has its soul in everything. But this was understood wrong, and his next generations started to see these stones as their God. Yes, the stones in Boncuklutepe were maybe more than two before. The creatures before Adam, I mean before humans, were worshipping or getting together in a temple which had more stones, but both the temples and the stones were insufficient. These stones and the belief caused them to have more gods, and the ones who understood it was a wrong belief and it was an insufficient belief started to have independent temples consisting of less stones, while also keeping the wrong traditions of the previous belief. I mean, they only changed the place and the number of the stones in the temple. They keep wrong traditions of the previous belief. These steps of freedom, or we can say these steps of independence, were the signs of the need of a prophet who was going to appear among them from somewhere soon. The same signs can also be seen in Broadgar, Orkney Island, Scotland. I'm so sorry if I make any mistake in spelling. Some words are so much different and not easy to spell for me. The same signs can also be seen in Broadgar, Orkney Island, Scotland, dating to between 3000 BCE and 2500 BCE. In one place, there are 3 standing stones, and there is even a standing stone, only one stone, built by an isolated group or a person. In other areas, there are group of stones. For example, Kalanish stones consisting of 14 standing stones, or stone circle from Gryzipnica, Poland, Beckmore stone circle from Northern Ireland, and Drumbeck stone circle from Ireland again, and Longmeg and her daughter's stone circle from Cumbria, Northern England, and Swinside stone circle, Cumbria, England again. Another one, Brian Cadder Fanner, North Wales, and finally Carnac stones from France. There might be other stone circles around the world, but these are the archaeological sites I've found from internet pages from those eras. All these stones, especially the 3 standing stone temple, or the other one, one standing stone temple in Scotland. This made me remember the movie Braveheart. You remember that movie? Freedom. Because these temples, 3 standing stone temple, Frida temples, I want to call these 2 temples as Frida temples of those ages, because they are far away from other group of stones. They build only 3 standing stone, and the other one builds only 1 standing stone, to prove that they are not like the others. They want freedom. So these less stones were the signs of the need of a new prophet. And when we look at the time of these stones, it was the messenger era of the prophet Abraham. A few centuries later, Abraham appears from somewhere southern with the best faith of all, and finds the heart of Allah, the central point of faith, the holy point, called as Kaaba in Islam today. And he builds something from stones again to specify the holy point, only to specify the holy point. I don't want to call it as the house of Allah, like it is called by some people in Islam. It is not a house. We cannot put anything into it, or we cannot put anything on it, or we cannot put anything on its walls. It must be very, very modest. It is just something constructed on the holy point to specify it, and not to lose or not to forget the point. We need to construct something that cannot be destroyed easily. So, after Prophet Adam, the standing stones were accepted as ancestor gods by next generations. And nearly 1,000 years later, a prophet called Set or Seti in Egyptian culture or Shid in Islam culture, recognizes and keeps his only one creator, his only one God, like Adam, despite all these standing stones and false gods around him. But this time, he tells about the God by showing the moon. The moon can be seen both during the day and night, so it can be a good shape of the creator. Everything must have been come out from the moon. He also adds that the soul of the creator must be in everything. We can reach its mind, its soul, through everything. But he never uses temples, standing stones, like Prophet Adam did. Because standing stones caused people have false gods. They started seeing their ancestors as their gods. So he shouldn't use any stones while worshipping. This made him a more faithful prophet than Prophet Adam. In a right belief, temples shouldn't be sublimed. Some people believed in Set, but some not. It might be because some of them were unaware of Set. They were living away from the places where Prophet Set lived. So, these people continued using temples, subliming temples, and subliming wrong traditions, like sacrificing people to get more help from the God they believe, or like burning dead bodies of their beloved people. It is called cremation in science now. They were burning dead bodies to keep their beloved people close to themselves, without burying the body underground. Yes, it was like an obsession. Satan likes obsessions, so it always finds a way to cause people have obsessions. They were keeping these burned dead bodies even in their houses. This must be because they don't want to break up with these beloved people, beloved fellows, beloved ancestors. So they wanted to keep them with themselves. But if they keep the dead body without burning, it is going to smell bad in time. So they decided to burn. Of course, it was Satan who guided them. They decided to burn the body and keep the bones and whatever left behind it. We see the examples of these burned bodies in another archaeological site in Şanlıurfa city again, called Nevali Chori. It is about 60 or 70 kilometers away from Göbeklitepe. Nevali Chori means infertile land in Kurdish. Name must have been given thousands years later after a disease in this land. I guess people should have to learn and use Turkish in these lands. They must have been punished by Allah in return of their ungratefulness. But this land in 8000 BCE, I mean this land 10,000 years ago, was productive. People used wheat and started farming, started producing new wheats for the first time of human history. So this means people started settled lives. According to archaeological discoveries in Nevali Chori, people started even domesticating the animals. However, they were in a wrong belief and they were still using standing stones, subliming temples, and subliming their ancestors. so they couldn't get the help they need from the one God, Allah. Although they were more civilized than any other places. I'm repeating this part. Although they were more civilized than any other places before and after themselves, it was not enough for Allah, or it was nothing when it is about faith. Yes, we also see the same kind of wrong T-shaped traditions in some cultures today. They want to keep dead bodies of their beloved people with themselves or in their houses, or we can see mummied bodies from Egyptian times that Egyptians were keeping mummied bodies in temples. Of course, all these traditions are wrong for the health of any living thing. We need oxygen and a fresh air. Even if you don't burn the body, it will again be dangerous for the health of living things. And if you burn these bodies, it will pollute the air with the gas it spreads. And this gas might contain a contagious disease. And people living in this polluted air might get these illnesses from the air or from where it spreads. For instance, in Hindustan, India, people burn dead bodies and pour the ashes into the river Ganges, right? So why do you think they have many different kinds of illnesses? We are living in a covered earth, Nothing is disappeared. So we need to keep the nature clean. We need to keep the air clean. And we need to keep the rivers clean. And yes, around 1 year later from these wrong traditions in Nevali Chori, in somewhere different, 670 kilometers away from here, called Çatalhöyük now, a brave, a wise, a good-hearted, a faithful, a freedom mind appears. He is Prophet Hanok, or Enoch, or Idris in Islam culture. He doesn't use temples, and he also doesn't use these wrong traditions. He guides his believers to have a different lifestyle. He takes them together in the same place and teach them how to live in justice. They start a city life, so the morals and the faith he teaches could easily be spread among people. After Prophet Hanok, thousands years later, another freedom mind who doesn't use his temples and who doesn't worship false gods appears in Proto-Samarra, situated by the river Idil in Russia. He is Noah, Prophet Noah, who was going to be known in different names later, but mostly as Nuh by Egyptian culture. After the flood, he settles with his family somewhere very similar like Proto-Samarra, by the river Tigris. He decides to name the place with the same name of his hometown, and his generation starts to call themselves as Samarran people. And in time, it changes into Sumerian people. These people I mean the race of Noah, starts subliming their ancestor Noah and his family members. They even start building family temples and gods in the same name. That's why we hear some god names called Nuth or some goddess names in Egyptian culture. The culture, or even the other cultures, formed by the race of Noah, continue to sublime ruler families as gods, and they mummied their dead bodies in temples. They start the same wrong traditions again and force people to worship these royal families and ancestor gods in temples. There is no gods except only one God, Allah, and we should sublime only it. Thank you for listening again. I was planning to speak till the time of Noah. Hope and pray it is going to be helpful in some way for all of you. May Allah be with you all.